Um, all right. So this is what is this, 7?
I think week 7.
Week
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
7 of the NFL season, of the fantasy season, and there's lots of takeaways. Welcome back, Austin. Getting married. Everyone say congratulations.
Turned 40
And
and
I'm
got
here
married. It
with
was good.
the usual suspects, Elliott and Christian. So let's start it off. Christian, your boy Drake May, they lost,
They
but
lost.
this is a fantasy show. So what do
Yeah.
you think of Drake May going forward?
Okay, so if you followed us last week, if you listened in, we had a question where somebody said, "Should I start Drake May?"
Yep.
My initial thought was, at some point it may just be he's a rookie. They haven't schemed him yet. He's not going to do
Mhm.
well. And then Warren said, "Well, he plays Jacksonville." I was
Yep.
like, "Oh, so yeah, start him." No, he had great success. I was trying to let me actually pull up his stat line. I think he had what
Yep.
like 22 points or so, something like that on fantasy.
hmm
Um, if you did half PPR, he had 20 points. 20
So
points.
real quick, Christian, the
Yeah.
exact question was, should I play Drake May or Kyler Murray? So I'll let you continue.
Okay. Well, Drake May was the choice. Drake May, like I said, he had a really good game. I think he was what 22 or 33.
Yep.
Just looking at him like a QB performance, he made a lot of really good reads. I feel like he may not have been put in maybe some of the best situations to pass,
Yeah.
but I thought he did really well with what he was given. We all know that if you have any of the Patriots receivers, if you have Butte, if you have Demario Douglas, they're probably worth holding because there may be weeks where they do well, but they're not
Hunter
going to.
Henry.
Yeah, but they're still not going to be your wide receiver one or tight end one, or they're
Yeah.
probably going to be a flex player or maybe a backup tight end on your roster. So I know the question was Drake May. Drake did really well. I can't remember who they play next week. I think it was a tougher matchup, but he did very well against a porous Jacksonville defense, even though they
Mhm.
lost.
All right.
Well, let me chime in on the flip side of that because Warren, you and I have made poor decisions based on the belief that the Patriots defense was legit, not starting wide receivers because we thought Christian Gonzalez was going to shut people down. He's
Yeah.
a hell of a corner, but that defense that we saw the first couple weeks is not the defense that we are seeing today.
Yep.
And so if I benched someone because I was worried about Gonzalez. Warren, I think you benched someone this week because you're worried about
Brian
Gonzalez.
Thomas, I benched him for Tyreek Hill.
And I started Brian Thomas, and I still may lose after scoring 160 points this week. So let's just, it's great. It's fantastic. But anyway, so now if for streamers or for bye weeks or for options, the Patriots defense is not what we thought they were. They are gettable. The Gonzalez is great, but he is not that scary guy that you can't get points off of, as shown by DK Metcalf cooking him week 2, Brian Thomas cooking him this week. So if you guys are worried about playing against the Patriots defense, play them. Play like don't
He's
make the
not
same
he's
mistake.
not Trent McDuffie from Kansas City.
I'd actually have like a point to kind of piggyback off what Austin said. I think, and this is my personal opinion, I think the days of, oh my gosh, he's playing that cornerback, so don't start him or like be skeptical. I think those days are kind of over. I feel like the offenses are
Mm,
too much motion, too much like creativity to where like, okay,
mm.
so play him.
I
But
say
yeah,
the Titans with L'Jarius Sneed, Kansas City with Trent McDuffie. Those are probably the two that I'm like, okay, you might want to.
even then, like
Well,
if I've got CeeDee Lamb or Nico Collins or Justin Jefferson,
I mean, you
even if
wouldn't
I've got
sit
like,
them, obviously,
I
but
mean,
I would temper expectations.
even like wide receiver like 9 or 10, like okay.
yeah,
But
I'm
I,
with
I
you on
I
that.
disagree. I don't feel like that. I don't feel like that's like a thing anymore.
I'm with you on that, Elliot. More so because what you're talking about is offenses moving their primary receivers around and
Mhm.
corners not necessarily shadowing them anymore. There aren't a
Mhm.
lot of corners anymore that are one versus one, where you're
Yeah.
moving from X to the Y to the Z, following them the whole time. I even in this game tonight, there was a comment that Sauce Gardner hadn't seen like any passes the last 2 weeks. Like no one is throwing at Sauce Gardner, but that does not mean wide receivers are not being moved away from Sauce Gardner to get
Mhm.
them touches. So I'm with you,
Yeah.
Elliot, in the sense of unless you know
And,
they're going
and,
to
yeah.
shadow them, then like that may not be a
And
thing.
right, you can temper expectations, but the days of like the Darrell Reeves, Richard Sherman,
Yeah.
this guy's going to stay here and
But
he's going to stay
island is not a
here.
thing.
Like that's not a thing anymore for real. So like basically the point is from a fantasy standpoint, if you got like a elite receiver going against a defense, just play him. Don't worry about it. Don't let yourself get into that mind game of like, oh, that corner. Like no.
I lost week 2 because I was trying to get cute. I was like, Christian Gonzalez, he's gonna shut it and just went some bananas. Come on.
All right. Yvonne says, rate my team. Lamar Jackson, Brees Hall, H.N., Jefferson, A.J. Brown, Ingram, CD, Lad McConkey, and Jonathan Brooks on IR. Yvonne,
If
if you
that's
want to
it,
pat yourself on the back, you can, if that's what you're
yeah,
looking for, but that's a 9.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good team. And it's especially a good team if that's like a 12-team league. That's like a 10. But if it's like a 10-team league, 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
That
a 9.
also means, hey, if Tua and he is on track to play this week. If Tua plays, hey, you can also see Achan and his
Mm-hmm.
carries and his point total also increase this next week. So hopefully
Hopefully.
it's all in your favor. Yeah.
Timmy Turner says, who wins this trade? Debo and Deontay Johnson and Jonathan Brooks for AJ Brown.
AJ Brown. Whoever gets AJ Brown wins that trade.
Christian, you disagree?
Yeah, I'm liking Deontay Johnson. And I know it's over AJ Brown, but I think if you were just to do 2 players for one, 2 players for AJ Brown, I'll be like, okay, yeah. But I think it's that you're trading all 3 of those guys. That also tells me that you're pretty set at wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2.
Yep.
And I'm hoping these guys are all on your bench, and that's why you're trying to trade for him. But yeah, I
And
mean,
Debo didn't even play today.
yeah,
Well, he played, but he left because of
Well, he
illness.
left because of it was illness. So apparently, I listened to on the radio on the way from the golf. Well, on the way home earlier, it said that he woke up sick. He tried to tough it out, and he
I
just
could.
he just couldn't.
Well.
So
Paul
Jake
Pierce. He
says,
has a
is
Paul Pierce
IU?
issue.
Oh yeah, he said, is IU out for the season? Jake's yes. I think he is out
yeah,
for the season with a torn ACL. Right? Am I wrong?
yeah.
that's what
No,
I've heard.
they think it's an ACL. They haven't had any of the tests come back yet, but they're anticipating it to be a
The,
torn or
the, the, the eye test was not a good test. I mean,
Oh
the
no,
eye test of watching it, you're like, nope, 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 nope,
he
nope.
got Nick Chubb. That was bad.
Mm. It was that bad.
Yeah, it was like his knee,
Bad.
Oh,
like the other way.
oh
Crazy.
no,
It
oh
was
no.
making a reverse like K, like
Yeah.
the wrong way. Like it was bad.
And that's why you go ahead and secure your bag. So all those people who was talking about Brandon Ayuk getting paid, this is why your season
hey,
can
just
just
while
like
we're here on injuries, who we talked about last week leading the Browns offense, Deshaun Watson.
yeah.
Now, and we're
Mm.
anticipating that Deshaun towards Achilles. It's a really quick test, and
Oh,
it was
He's
like
talking
once it
about
happened.
Najee Harris.
It was like once it
sorry. I'm
happened.
sorry.
Like, oh yeah, oh no, you're good. It was like once it happened, they're like, oh yeah, he probably tore his Achilles. So if that's confirmed tomorrow, I mean, you got to think Deshaun's out for at least the next year and a half.
Mhm.
He's
It's
done.
not that it's going to take long to come back from it. It may take probably 3 or 4 months to actually gain strength and get back to normal walking form. But I mean, if
I
you're an NFL
doubt
player, go ahead.
he gets signed again.
Does he get signed again?
Yeah. I don't think he's gonna unless it's like a backup or like a minimal deal. I
He
don't know.
doesn't have the good faith of the league to like with the baggage and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
stuff going on. Like he's not Russ, like taking the minimum, coming in as a character guy to
Yeah.
to make a play at it. But again, for our longtime listeners, for the last like 7 weeks, because we've been doing this for so long, I went on a rant about Jameis Winston. It is his time. I want to
But you know
see.
who they jumped him. They jumped him for DTR.
It's only a matter of time.
But Dorian
Yeah, I
Thompson
saw
hurt his
that.
finger
He
today.
played.
It's
Oh,
only
Dorian
a matter
Thompson
of time.
went in.
But that wasn't they did that pregame because there was an update that said Jameis would be the emergency third quarterback. And that's why Thompson went in when Watson got hurt. Braden says Deontay Johnson and Pollard for CeeDee Lamb. Yeah, I do that.
So what did so I know Carolina they got destroyed today. What was Johnson's final stat line today?
Let's
I,
find
I think he actually
I
had a
can
touchdown that was dropped.
Let me
I
see.
can look
I think he was in the
very
end zone for
well.
one.
He had 1 for 17.
How many
Okay.
targets?
I didn't see the target count. Let me see. He had 1 for 17. Now I watched that game. Um,
They were bad.
and Commanders defense just actually looked. I mean,
Good.
yeah, I mean they actually just looked good. Like nobody on the
Yeah,
Panthers looked great. Chuba Hubbard got a late whack ass useless
I'll
touchdown.
take it. And hey, if fantasy don't matter, don't matter.
You're right.
Touchdown's touchdown.
Put the respect on his name that he deserves. Oklahoma
Oklahoma
State
State
Oklahoma
great.
great.
Chuba
State.
Hubbard.
Great.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Deontay had 3 targets.
And part of that could be game script. Like when the game is out of hand, you just stuff happens.
Oh no, it was great game script there because they were trying to throw. It's just Dalton was getting sacked and pressured every play, like
You're
every.
right. Like
Yeah.
that's
So the Panthers are not back, is what we're saying.
uh
I don't know. I think
The
they
Panthers
have good days.
left the party early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you think Andy Dalton was bad today, how bad do you think they would have been if Bryce Young was out there?
So let me
Oh
tell
my
you.
gosh. Oh my
Let me tell
gosh.
you Bryce Young stats. Okay.
I know what they are.
He
Sam.
had 100% completion percentage.
How many
One for
yards?
one.
He was 2 for 2,
How many yards?
a -4 yard.
Yeah, exactly. Uh-huh. And one of those was a -6 yard. One of them was -6.
Yep. He had an average of
Mhm.
2 yards. Jordan said,
Welcome to Carolina, Cam Ward.
Jordan says, do you think Jaden Daniels will play next week? That's
Uh,
hard to say. Do you know who
I
they
haven't
play?
seen any. I haven't seen anything come out. And we talked about it in our group text. I think it was more so, hey, we're already up in the second half.
Yeah.
He doesn't have to come back in. Let's just keep him out, let him rest, let him heal up.
Yeah, this is a harder one to figure out because because of that exact situation, Christian, where you're like, oh, if they were losing and he didn't come back, you're like, oh shit, this may be like a
I'll
little
say
bit more
this.
serious. But the game was over, and so you're like, why risk it? Let him rest and
Yeah.
be back. So we'll have to keep an eye on the injury report for this week.
So let me ask you this, Austin Christian. They're playing Chicago next week. Do you think he's going to want to play in that game, playing against Caleb Williams?
I mean, I think he wants to play every game. The dude's a killer. Like,
He
I,
is.
I think if he can play, he's going to play.
well,
Like,
he wants to play every game because technically, I think they lead the East. So I mean, he needs to play if he can
one from
for
a
that
fantasy
reason.
perspective, he would like coming into this week. He was the number 2 fantasy quarterback on ESPN. Like,
Right,
like
right.
he's the guy at this point in time for all the rookies. And like, you don't have his journey from Arizona State to LSU to the Heisman to being the second quarterback drafted, like second quarterback drafted. He's gonna want to play, but it's just a matter of how bad that injury was, or like Christian said, you're already blowing him out. So like, dude, you're good. Consider this your like
And
practice
you know what?
game.
It,
Like,
it may be one of those situations. Hey, okay, tomorrow is probably a review film. They're probably not going to practice. Maybe you just don't let them practice till Wednesday.
Yeah.
Let's get extra day of rest, extra day of healing. So we'll see.
if he
Also,
can play, he's gonna play.
rib injuries is one of those. And unfortunately, praise the Lord, I've never had a rib injury, but that's one of those injuries that like one it takes time and like it just weird. Like it takes so much time to actually heal.
It's one of
Like you
those like
can't.
even like breathing, like
Yeah,
it'll
like
if
even
it is like a
breathing is
broken
kind of
rib.
rough.
Yeah.
And like it's one of those that you have to just you have to just tough out. And I remember there was a quarterback in college football, it's a different sport, but he got injured his ribs in like the conference championship game. And this was back before the playoffs. So by the time his bowl game came around, like 4.5 weeks later, he was still like struggling. Like it's just one of those things that like
Yeah.
it can take time.
And it
I've
would
heard
depend
it
on
was more
which
so a
side it's
pain
on.
tolerance
Yeah.
than being able to maneuver. Because I
Mhm.
think even though he was a tough SOB, Big Ben played with injured ribs in the playoffs once, and he said it was more just about pain, like
Mhm.
moving stuff is more about
Yeah.
pain.
And I think side of the rib will matter. I like if it's on the left side, like how much is getting engaged and throwing
Yeah.
motion, right
I
side.
think it was his left side.
Yeah. So it may be one of those things where we see a game script that is less quarterback run, which is not ideal for fantasy for Jaden Daniels. But again, we don't know what it's going to look like, so we're going to have to keep an eye out on the injury report through the
Yeah.
week. because he
Uh,
sat out the rest of the game.
So I do. So I will
what-
say this: Jake Daniels. I think he's proven at this point he's kind of like matchup proof. Like the defense he's playing is kind of irrelevant.
yep.
However, the Bears defense may be one of the most. They're definitely top three in the league. So take that for what it's worth. I still start him unless the Commanders like act concerned. But just know, like this next week, even if he's 100% health wise or pretty good, he still may not have a great game because the Bears defense is good.
Okay. Lil Rob says thoughts on Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, you start him. I don't know.
Good,
He's
good.
undroppable. I mean, like he
Yeah,
starts every week, and
start him.
I'm going to score 160 points this week and lose this one with Jahmyr Gibbs. So like, thanks for that. That's awesome, fantastic. And Brees Hall,
And
and
and his bye weeks are done. So unless he gets hurt,
Yeah.
yeah,
ride him, ride him.
Jacob says thoughts on HN this week. Assuming you mean the next week, but if Tua comes
He was
back,
good today.
yeah, he
Based
was good
on
today.
he was good today.
I think HN will be fine if Tua comes back and is healthy rest of the season. I think he'll be good. Mason says is Tank Dell startable even without Nico? So he has 0 points today. He had 0 catches. I will say I would still start him if I had to. But he would probably more than likely be my flex. I wouldn't want to start him as my starter wide receiver.
So I mean, if we look at a stat, okay, this week removed, if we look at a stat line from last week, I mean, if you really could have said, okay, he may have been the true wide receiver one of that offense. Yeah, they still have Stephon Diggs. I'm sure he's probably the primary read, but I, I think if you're in this situation, I would at least, I know you said a flex, I would at least put him at wide receiver two, because you're assuming that he's going to have some point production. Just looking at CJ Stroud's stat line, I mean, dude was not good. He was not good today.
not a good week.
So if you're just looking at just Nico Collins isolated from just him from the offense, yeah, he didn't have a good day, but CJ Stroud also really didn't help his case. I think he had like
Stroud had 86 yards passing.
yeah, 5.8 points fantasy wise. Like
No.
it,
So
don't
and
Eagles
then
just
Pareko says, should I trade Mahomes for Stroud? I would.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
I don't really think Mahomes is a. Did we talk about this last time? Of like
yeah.
Mahomes not really a top five or a top 10 fantasy
Oh,
fantasy
I
quarterback.
went on that rant like 4 weeks
Yeah.
ago, and then
Okay,
Elliott
yeah,
set
Yeah.
me up for another one, and I contradicted myself. But like,
yeah.
but yeah, Patrick Mahomes is not a top 10 wide quarterback play ever anymore because their goal is to win games. From a football team perspective, Kansas City is just unbeatable in the
Efficient.
sense of like
They're just playing efficient football.
you can't bet against the Chiefs ever. But
I
from a
think they
fantasy
have the best
perspective,
defense in the league.
you
I
harped on
think
that.
But
I,
hey, but they win games. They figure out a way to win the games.
Yeah, which
well,
is horrible for fantasy, but great for Chiefs fans. You're like the football
Yeah.
well,
fans
And that's
wait,
all that matters.
wait. I had Kareem Hunt. It's not horrible fantasy.
on your bench in our league, on your bench.
Yeah, but I had him in how many leagues? I had him in two other leagues.
Do you have him in
Yeah,
our
I
league?
benched
Yeah, you
Kareem
have him in
Hunt in
our
that
league, right?
league. I benched him for Tony Pollard like an idiot.
Do you have him in
But
our league?
And you
I,
love Tony Pollard. I don't know why. You love Tony Pollard.
I do. I do. I like
You were
Tony
beating the
Pollard.
drum for Tony Pollard. All of our TikTok viewers go to our YouTube page, and
Yeah.
Warren was hyperextending his shoulder to pat himself on the back about Tony Pollard.
So I'll say so. My take for Tony Pollard. Yes, the Titans suck. My thought process was he was still talented. He was still a good back. Two, I felt like it wasn't going to be a 50-50 split between him and Tajay Spears because I felt like Pollard fits an RB1. Spears fits that pace of change back. Like he's not an
Yeah.
every down back. He's not Austin Eckler. And I felt they paid him, what was it, $20 million, 20 something
Yeah,
million
I think
dollars
so.
per contract.
Uh-huh.
You don't pay someone that type of money in free agency and not use them. So
Unless you're the Ravens the first couple weeks of the season.
unless you're the Ravens, and
First 2 weeks this season, yeah.
there's no way he's not gonna get work. And I just
Mm-hmm.
felt like he can catch out of the backfield. So
He's a
that's
three
why
down back.
he's one of the few running backs I think is gonna get consistent volume every single week. Now,
Warren, I'm gonna be honest here. I did not watch the Titans game today. Just
Mhm.
I really like to watch Titans football.
You had a a lot of people didn't watch that game.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
did they look with Mason Rudolph under center? Did the offense look better? I know last week, we were really saying yeah,
Mm,
Calvin Ridley, probably don't start him. Maybe Hopkins is okay, but how did they look
so
this week?
they look bad, um, as usual. Now, granted, Buffalo defense came to play today, and but they look bad. Pollard had 16 carries though. I'm not mad at it. He only had 2 catches for 4 yards, but Calvin Ridley had 9 targets and only caught 3 of them. So I knew he would get targets after his tantrum last week. Hopkins, I don't even think he had a pass, to be
I think
honest.
he
I
had
don't even think he
one.
had a target.
I think
Um,
he had one catch.
but Mason Rudolph threw 40 passes, like
Yeah.
40 attempts. So two
So
QB lead,
funny.
I don't mind it, but no, they still look bad.
So funny story about the Titans Bills game. That's actually the game today that I was the most familiar with, and the funny reason I was in my car a lot today during football, and where we are locally on 94.5 is the Titans radio broadcast. So I heard everything Titans and Bills. I
That's
heard like as I was driving home, driving out, and everything. And so I knew a lot about that game for that reason. But you're talking about like, being high on Pollard. I don't my thing is I don't get so up in arms about a person, quote unquote, getting it wrong if the logic they used made sense. And your logic was great. The logic behind Pollard made sense. I get off and I feel like people have get behind somebody, and I'm like, wait, that doesn't make sense. But logically, I can see how you follow that trail to Pollard. So like,
Elliot, I appreciate you saying that because as someone who is now who's 1-5, I made a lot of logical decisions, like banking on Etienne and Rashid White. And
yeah,
come on, man. I missed.
yeah,
So anyone listening, I'm going to say a lot of logical stuff, but I'm 1-5, and I'm going to lose this week, scoring 160 points. So I get it right, and I still lose. Warren beat me by 0.57 points, so I'm just a bitter guy in the group. Okay, so like,
Hey, that was because Isaiah Likely is 1.4. I beat you.
and I see Isaiah Likely is also not on your team
Nope.
anymore. He's
We
he's on
thanked him
another
for
team.
all he did. We thanked him.
But
Sick.
no, Elliot, you're 100% right in the sense of like the logic. For me personally, it was the drafting Etienne, expecting him to be the bell cow, drafting Rashid White from the Bucks, like expecting him to be the bell cow based on last year. But the reality in fantasy is we're now 6-7 weeks into the year,
yeah,
and for people in my position, and again, I'm 100% candid that my ass is 1-5. You got to start making changes. You can't
yeah,
like
yeah.
yeah, you got to start figuring out where to cut your losses. It's the sunk
Right.
cost fallacy. Like you believe, like, oh, he was my second round pick, but if he's garbage, he's garbage. And
Yeah,
I started Tank Bigsby this week, and it worked out great for me. But
that's right.
next week, whenever I've got to decide between Etienne or Rashid White, or like, you got to start making tough decisions because you're in
Mhm.
week 6, 7, 8,
Yep.
and if they're not good, they're not good.
So
Yeah, we
Austin,
also got to follow the lot. No,
well, I was going to ask you. So if you're a viewer out there and you're 1-5 or 2-4, and you're at a place now where okay, bye weeks are coming up and your roster may not be where you want it to be, what do you recommend them doing? Do you recommend them, maybe packaging their best player and trying to make something of that? Maybe trying to trade for a quarterback? Because probably at this point, there's nobody really probably on waivers that they probably want to go after. Maybe there's one person, but they're probably not going to be like a make or break for their team. So, what do you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, right now there's a handful of questionable running back rooms, like Tampa Bay being one of them, where the coach literally came out and said, "We've got 3 guys. We're going to give them 3 touches. Like we're all going to give them a series and see who runs hot." Um, for running back specifically, because that's where I'm struggling. Like I'm great in wide receivers, but the first part of that is like take a flyer on some of these questionable running back rooms where you can get the second or third running back whenever it's going to be by committee and try to ride a hot hand. But the reality is I'm now in a position to where I'm going to have to start trading positions of strength. So like I've got a really good wide receiver room and I've got a pretty good tight end room. So bundling those to try to strengthen my running back room specifically. But the challenge is I tend to try to wait for a hot week for my questionable running back. So like if I get a hot week from White or from Etienne, that's when I'm going to try to move them. But the problem is they're not having hot weeks. They're just all hot. They're all hot
Yes.
garbage. So like just give me one 15-point week from one of those guys, and they're going to be gone. But what I would tangibly recommend is in deeper leagues, 10, 12 league teams, start stashing. Warren, I've seen your lineup, your roster on our league. You stash those running backs. You've got those guys that you're trying to hope end up hitting.
Yeah,
So take a flyer on Irving if he's available, or a Tucker. Tucker, is that the third
John
running
Tucker.
back?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Tucker if he's available. A Bixby if he's available. Even a deep stash. I ranted a couple weeks ago about Jonathan Brooks. He's got the talent, and the Panthers are bad enough that they may want to start a rookie and like get him some touches coming in. So take a flyer potentially for the second half of the season, but start trading from your areas of strength if you have an area of strength. So like
Yeah.
trade one of your wide receivers and a tight end and the former second round Etienne pick you had running back and try to move into a little bit stronger position.
Yeah.
Basketball says I'm up 65. He's got Kyler Murray and McBride. Do I win? Yeah, with
Oh,
the
you definitely win.
Oh,
with the Chargers.
especially against the Chargers defense,
Yeah,
you should win.
you're good,
Yeah.
bro. But I will say, going back to your point, Austin, just piggybacking. At this point, I think you got to start trading your best players 2 for 1 and just hope you trade for something with upside. Like you just hope it hits. If you have, I don't know, give me somebody like a AJ Brown. See if you can
Mhm.
get Achan and another decent wide receiver, and your hope is Achan breaks into that top 10 again, and your receiver can be consistent. So, um, oh, basketball said I
Yeah.
started Kareem Hunt over Tyreek.
Oh,
That was good.
I don't know if you are you finished. I don't want to cut you off. You ain't finished, man.
I'm finished now.
I was gonna say like, yeah, I don't know like the playoff makeup of all the teams watching or whatnot, but we're at that. Here's the thing, like if you're, I would even say if you're 2-4 or 2-5, 1-5, 2-4. At this point, in your team, not only is everybody tradable, but like don't fall in love with anybody. So if you had, wow, sorry, I just got
We are
enthralled by
live,
some.
people. We are live.
uh, but like even if you have St. Brown on your team or Gibbs on your team, but you're 1-5, they got to go. Like you gotta capitalize on their talent and what they're doing for you. They may be your biggest point getter, but if you're only winning one game,
Yeah.
they're obviously not adding much value just than they are adding. It's like we're at that point now where because in a couple more weeks we're gonna be at the point where like if you're two and something come week 8, like 2025, like that's it. So nobody is safe on your team, and you got to have that attitude. And you know what? Tell them that. Tell your players, y'all ain't safe.
Put them on the
Say it to
trading
them.
block. Tell
Say
your
it
leader
to
to
them.
put them on the trading block. Let them send trade offers. If you don't like it, you counter it.
Mhm.
That's simple. Jacob says thoughts on Brian Thomas Jr. rest of season with him dropping 20 plus. Oh, he's a starter.
Oh
He's
yeah,
a star.
absolutely.
I sat in for Tyreek Hill today. Again, Austin, I thought Christian
Like
Gonzalez.
an idiot. Like an idiot.
Yeah, all point and laugh. And yeah, I'm gonna
Go
lose
back
that
to
league
YouTube.
anyway
Go
because I
back to
had Jaden
YouTube week
Daniels.
one. YouTube week
Yeah.
one. Beating the
Yeah.
drum for Brian Thomas Jr., man.
And you
Like
know what's so funny? I looked at what was it? It was like a ranking I saw earlier before the games even started. And the first three wide receivers they had ranked all came from what college? Can you guess?
LSU.
LSU.
It was Jefferson, Chase, and Neighbors, and Brian Thomas was like 15th or something like that.
Mhm.
Um, so I mean they translate very well. So
Hey, well, you know what? Hey, let me add this here. So during the London game, they actually featured the receivers, and they said if you look at the rookie receivers, all right, number one, Malik Neighbors. Number
of course.
two, Brian Thomas Jr.
Yep.
In terms of catches and
Yep.
production so far,
Hmm.
those two guys are leading the league.
and the
So you have,
Jaguars aren't as and the Jaguars aren't as good as we thought they were going to be. So they're going to be playing from behind, and Brian Thomas Jr. is going
Yeah.
to be blitzed.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's great rest of the season. So I'm interested to see. This isn't a college show, but I'm interested to see where Kyron Lacy gets drafted.
Is he draft eligible for this year?
Yeah.
I don't
I thought he
know.
was a sophomore. I thought he was a sophomore.
Thank
I
you.
thought he was a junior, but
I mean, I don't know.
I'm not sure. Whenever he
Basically, yo,
goes,
hey,
I'm gonna see
2025. If
where he
he's if
goes.
he's if he's coming for if he's out this next year,
Game
put
winner
money
versus
on
Ole Miss. So
Where was Butte an LSU guy?
LSU. Mhm.
And
yeah.
he's the only one that looks like he's worth a damn going forward in New England. He's not great, but he like looks like he has some kind of potential
Yeah.
in him.
Yeah.
The only LSU receiver so far that just hasn't really done much is
Terrace Marshall.
Terrence Martin. He's really the only one.
Yeah. Now, granted, he was in Carolina,
He was in Carolina. Yeah.
so I can't really bug him that much.
Yeah.
But
Tyron Lacey is a senior.
Oh,
oh,
He
oh
is
yeah,
going.
I'm
He's
interested to
going.
see where he goes. Kansas City, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, but let's move on to this game. Um, it was a boring game. However, I do think we need to talk about it. Is Miami, Indianapolis. So the Colts.
bring back Flacco.
Bring back Flacco. I looked at Anthony Richardson's stats, and y'all know once I saw that game, I think it was after the Houston game. I can't remember who they played. He had 9 completions. Was it Green Bay? I can't remember.
The very
Um,
week one, it was like 9 of 9. Week one was
yeah,
like 9 of 19.
I was like, yeah, I'm out on Richardson. Though today he got better. It was 10 completions. 10 of 24. He had 129 yards. Do you know what his now, mind you, the Colts won. Do you know what his QBR was?
0.
33.1. That's a
It,
random guess.
it was a 24 QBR
Okay.
in a win.
With saying something.
And
Without Taylor.
that irks my nerves because I feel like, yes, he won. They're now 4-3. And it's like, but that didn't work. Like, I wish they had lost so they can see that this isn't working. And I like Anthony Richardson. I really do. But I feel like he's one of those quarterbacks that probably needs to sit back and learn under Joe Flacco, like learn how to read a defense, what reads to make, because it just doesn't look
Yeah.
he doesn't look ready. And like Elliott point always is, this is still technically his rookie year, but like he still just doesn't look ready to me. And when the
And he's got
moment
Shane Steichen.
yeah, and the moment I saw that he was coming back, I dropped Michael Pittman. I didn't even bother picking up Trey Sermon. I knew that Josh Downs would have a bad game. Like you just downgrade everybody because of Anthony Richardson's poor ass play. Um, so your thoughts on it? I sometimes I wish coaches would just make the logical decision. Your offense ran so much better with Flacco, and you were 2-0. I think you were 2-0. He was out 2 games. And with Richardson, it just has not looked great. And I feel like they're in a division. Yes, Houston is good, but I feel like they're in a division where they could actually make a wild card because
Mm-hmm.
Jacksonville's not good. And I can't even remember who else is in their division.
Tennessee ain't good.
Tennessee, and they're probably the worst team in the league. So it's like I feel like your schedule, you have 4 games that you know you should win, and you've already lost to Houston, and it was a close game. But like I don't know, I just felt like Flacco, they should have stayed with Flacco, let Richardson learn, and let him come back next season if you don't resign Flacco, and maybe he knows better like how to read a defense because what's going on now is just not working. I mean, yeah, 56 rushing yards, but that's just off of athleticism. So that really pissed me off. I was rooting for Miami, but just for that reason. But your thoughts on Anthony Richardson going forward?
I'll chime in as the more the optimist. Again, going back to my Bryce Young apologist era, where he's not like from a football perspective, he's cooked in Carolina. You can't start him. Don't play him. He needs a trade, change of scenery. This is the year of redemption quarterback stories between like Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, like Geno Smith. I mean, there are a lot of quarterbacks who've done great things at other places. But anyway, with Anthony Richardson, I mean, you're right in the sense of from a fantasy perspective, the Colts are poison if Anthony Richardson starts. Like, other than Taylor, and even that's 50-50, depending on if they're just going to load the box. I think Richardson going forward, as long as they don't like murder his confidence, like he could be a good quarterback. I think he has the skills to be a good quarterback.
And fantasy this year?
Not this year, like
Oh, okay.
going forward. You're talking about. I mean, if the question is Anthony Richardson for fantasy this year, it's done. It's over. It's cooked. Don't play him. Don't start him. Don't play a Colt. If it's long term, like if you're in a keeper league or something like that, Anthony Richardson has the wow factor of when he can throw the ball 70 yards in the air for a touchdown and still truck people like Cam Newton. I mean, that's hard to match. And so this year, Colts are toxic. If Anthony Richardson is playing, bring back Joe Flacco is 100% every sign that should be in Lucas Oil Stadium. But yeah, I don't understand for the coach, like what you're talking about, Warren. If you're a coach, your job's to win games, or you're going to get fired. So like if Irsay is in your ear saying start Richardson, that's one thing because he's the guy that can fire you. If he's not, Flacco is the only one. Literally after we've harped on
So,
after Cleveland last year, Flacco can get you there.
so
Yeah.
Austin, if I can add, that was actually going to be my take. I don't know if it's so much that Steichen wants to start him, or if it's that Ursay is in his ear saying, "Hey, we drafted this guy last year.
Yep.
Hey, we shut him down so he could heal fully and
Yep.
he can play. Hey, start the kid. Hey, I think we should start the kid."
And it's the
So I'm
same with
wondering if that,
Cleveland with
yeah,
Watson.
I'm wondering if that's what it is.
Yep.
If it's your boss telling you to do it, you say yes, sir. Like, yeah, okay, I'll do it because it's about job security. I lean towards you, what you're talking about, Christian, where like if he has the blessing from Ursay to start Richardson, then you got to do it because he's the guy that controls your job. If Ursay's not in his ear, then there's no way you can't keep playing. It's got to be flexible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ellie, what's your take on it?
I should have taken that had nothing to do with fantasy. I was going to just say, to me, this goes back to what my argument was back in 2011 about Tim Tebow. Yeah, he was winning, but this don't look good. What is this? Like, what is this? So that's all I had to say. But I pretty much
The same
sign on to what y'all all
difference
said.
with Tebow was he was selling tickets.
I
Rich
mean,
selling
they
tickets.
both were at Florida, so
Let me see. Winging it. Winger says, should I drop Mahomes for Russell Wilson?
oof,
Austin.
man.
uh, oh,
He's
Hey,
cooking tonight versus the
but
Jets.
I guess the question is like if you're just trying to stream games,
No, he
yes.
said drop Mahomes for Russell Wilson.
I mean, if you don't believe in your quarterback, yes, because you're picking a new quarterback every week potentially. Like some people draft quarterbacks very late in their draft, and it's more about matchups and taking opportunities. Because if you're in an 8 or 10 team league, there's always going to be a quarterback that you can play. If it's literally about next week, it's just about matchup. And if it's I don't know the Chiefs matchup right now. Like, do we know who the Chiefs play
Does it
next week? Like,
matter?
it does. It does.
I
Like,
hate
if
to
it's going to
say
be,
that, but
I mean, if Pittsburgh's going to absolutely steamroll someone, Russ isn't going to play.
Chiefs play the Raiders.
Chiefs play the Raiders.
yeah.
Uh,
So that means Kareem Hunt's gonna eat.
Yeah, you want a close game. Like, so, I mean, yeah, I'm undecided. Like, I'm just not going to give you an answer. But if
He's
Russ is starting
asking,
next week, who do the Steelers play next week?
Elliot, who would you do? Would you drop Mahomes for Wilson?
I'm not going to have enough information to say yet. But also, are we for sure that they're not going to go back to Fields?
No,
Not
I
after
think
this
it's
week.
Sure.
done. It's done now, I think.
Yeah, let me see. What is the
But
Steelers' next
so
schedule coming up?
Steelers are the
Steelers
Mahomes,
next week
Giants.
play on
Mahomes
Monday.
Giants.
is Vegas and Russell Wilson has the
The
Giants.
Giants.
Neither one of those game trips are great for fantasy.
Also, the Steelers have a bye week the next week right after the Giants. So I
Done,
don't
yeah.
know if that's gonna impact your decision.
I
I
say
don't.
this. F it, I would do it just because when they get in the red zone now, it's Kareem Hunt.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, Steelers go Najee Harris.
I'd even ask like to the
Najee
person, is this
Harris.
wait, did a person ask this question? That just kind of something you
No,
would
he
all skip
asked it.
off.
Winging it with Winger said, "Should I drop Mahomes for Russ?"
Well, I was saying I wasn't I was looking at so I was kind of not I missed it. So I was saying like I would even ask the person like, what's your record? If you're like 5-1, do it. Why not?
Austin
Why
has
try
that look on
something?
his face
So
when he
I'll give you my
normally.
I'll give you my thoughts here. If you're asking to drop him for Russell Wilson, would would y'all not consider Drake May as a better option?
Yeah.
So I mean,
I was going
I
to
think
ask you
there are
that.
other
Would you
yeah,
do
I think there's
Drake
other
May or
options.
Russell Wilson? But
Yeah,
say Drake May isn't available. Because I will say this, technically, I'm in a two QB league and all the QBs are gone unless someone pops up as a starter. So may have been picked up last week. So now Russell Wilson may be on waivers. Would you do it?
yeah. I mean, Mahomes probably going to get you up 12 points. I'm trying to think like what is a consistent point average for Russell Wilson moving forward. Obviously now it's shown that he has some chemistry with Pickens. Um,
That's it.
That's
Well, those are just great plays by
I
Pickens.
think well, he threw it up and Pickens
There
went
you
up
he's
go.
and
smart enough to get it.
so yeah.
Yeah. I feel
That's a
like
tough one. That's a tough
my
one.
wife,
So,
when I didn't throw that,
so whoever asked that question, come back next week, tell us what you did, and rub it in our face if we are wrong, because actually none of us committed to it because
no,
we don't
I
have
did.
any.
I said I would do it.
Okay, so whoever asked that, come back next week and either thank Warren or just hammer him for it because the rest of us are too situational. Because it again, Drake May would be a great pickup. Um, a team that you know is going to be behind in a fantasy quarterback situation, like you may want them over. Those are two brutal fantasy situations because they should win by a hand, like by a large amount.
And I'll give you somebody else I may even consider if he's on waivers. Geno Smith. Uh, I don't know. I mean, I'm still on the belief that, and again, Warren, I know your point. It could be a two QB or two QB league.
Yeah.
I, if there's other options out there on waivers, I would probably entertain those.
I'll say
Yeah, I
this.
would I would see who's out there.
This
Who's
how
out
bad
there?
it is in a two QB league. On waivers, when you click available quarterbacks, the first name that pops up is Blake Sims. Yeah.
Wait,
Um,
he's in the league still?
exactly. It's just there's no starting quarterback available in two QB leagues.
Honestly, whoever's starting for the Browns would be a better pick than either of Mahomes or whoever we were talking about.
I would
Russell,
take
Because
Russ Wilson. I'd take Russ Wilson over Jameis or Dorian.
Tom,
well,
yeah.
Yeah,
I
I,
wouldn't because
I
they're
was
playing
I
the
was on the
Ravens.
Fields bandwagon. I was
They're,
like start Fields, but I would take Russ over them. I'd take
nah,
Russ over Mahomes.
I'd take any like Brown starting quarterback next week, especially if it's Jameis, because I'm gonna beat the drum for Jameis.
All right.
Jameis
We're
five
gonna we're
touchdowns
gonna put
scored.
this bet on the board. You
Yep.
said you're taking Cleveland's quarterback, whoever it is. I'll take Russell Wilson versus the Giants.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Got it here live.
I'd also say about Russell Wilson, like as great as I would say good, not great, as good of a performance as this is this like the peak, or just what we should expect from here on out too? Because there's a lot of quarterbacks have a tendency when they're off the bench to like kind of wow you, and they
There's no
come down to
sample
earth.
size.
So I kind of wonder, like, is this going to be like a, oh my gosh, this is like he reawakened himself, or is it going to be, oh, that was a peak? That's
I'll
one
give my
question you got to ask too.
I think Russell Wilson within this offense, and if they stay healthy, would be like a um
QB 15.
Jared Goffish. He
Mm.
Okay,
can
yeah.
play
QB15.
well
Yeah.
and the running back score the touchdowns, or he could have a game where Goff could throw 300 yards and three touchdowns. Wilson could go 303. I feel like his floor would be 15. Or not floor, but like his average. Sorry, his average would be 15.
So like on like a week.
A week to week basis, I would say his average is 15. And then their
Hmm.
defense is so good. It's like, how many shootouts do you expect Russell Wilson to be in?
Not many, which
Unless
might,
they
which,
play, and there's Najee.
wow.
What a cheat touchdown.
That that was a, oh, that was a cheap touchdown. Oh my, that was such a cheap touchdown.
That was 4th and 2.
If I was going against Najee Harris, which I'm not, thank the Lord,
I'd
I
be
would be
pissed.
like, oh my God.
Najee Harris screwed me so bad last year that I just couldn't draft him this year because he was so bad last year. He was
Kind of same for me too. I was
so
like,
Elliott,
yeah, I
bad
can't.
last
Elliott actually
year.
dropped Najee Harris for Mostert. It was like week,
Last year, yeah,
what was that, week three-ish, something like that?
like four, maybe 4 or 5.
Yeah. And
So
it
this is
worked
not a
out.
fantasy.
So
This is not
to all,
fantasy. This is not a fantasy take, but the Steelers are winning. It's about to be a big win, but they just did like a big shot, and the stadium was emptying out. I'm like, y'all not gonna stay and enjoy this win?
Beat the traffic.
I
It's
don't know.
11. It's
I don't
eleven
know.
thirty, Elliot.
I'm gonna stay and enjoy this. I'm gonna watch that clock at 0.
It's a school night. It's a school
Yep.
night.
I'll take my kids late and write them a note. Hey, they were sick. Here.
What a fitting touch for the Jets. Oh, let me take one more question. Hang on. Who is this? We got down 7. I got Derrick Henry tomorrow by Tommy. You should win, Tommy.
Hmm.
Henry, should I try and trade for Garrett Wilson? Braylon, I'm gonna get to your question because that was about to be my next topic. Tina Marie said, should I pick up Drake May or Russell Wilson? We just had this
Oh
conversation.
wow, that's
Drake
we
May.
just kind of.
Uh,
Drake May.
Tina, I don't think you can go wrong either way. Russell Wilson has a bye week in 2 weeks, if that matters to you, but I'd probably go. Ooh, that's tough. I'd probably
That's
go
not tough.
Wilson.
Russ has a Powder Puff game next week and a bye week. Take May.
Well, I wouldn't say about Powder Puff. I mean, the Giants. That's gonna be a tough defense. I mean, he may still do fine against them, but
Patriots have the Jets next week.
Yeah, Patriots got the Jets.
well, yeah, that may be a good start for May.
Tina, I say Russell Wilson. I go Russell Wilson. He's got the Giants at home too. Um, so back to Braylon and his question: should I try and trade Garrett Wilson? My question to you three was what do you think? Do you think this is just the Steelers defense, or what do you think of the Jets passing game? Obviously, Brees Hall had an incredible game. I'm going against him. But what are your takes on Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams going forward? Because Austin, as you know, in the league I'm with you in, I have both of them, Adams and Wilson. And I'm waiting for Cup and Puka to come back so I can take them out and put the Rams receivers in. But um, your take on the Jets passing game? They got New England next week.
I'll let Austin go first.
Why are you letting me go first? I don't know what the hell's going on. I like my rule, like the thing I said the last 6 weeks is
Austin's 1-5. You can't let him go first.
All right, Austin, I can go. I can go. So Elliot and I put out some videos. I guess some videos this past week talking about some of the big trades that happened.
No.
One of the things that I had was, okay, now that Devontae Adams has gone to the Jets, I really think that lessens the value of Alan Lazard and Garrett Wilson. If you have watched the game today, you saw there's an interception thrown to Garrett Wilson. He dropped it or he kind of bobbled it, and then it was almost returned for a touchdown by the Steelers. I really think Aaron Rodgers, and more and you said it too, I think Rodgers hates throwing to Garrett Wilson. If you notice it, if you looked at when that trade actually went down and when it was executed, Garrett Wilson was like, man, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
So I really wonder if they're going to either keep him on the roster, and now he is going to be a wide receiver 3. And so that means Devontae Adams, Lazard will be over him, or if they're going to try to find somebody to take him. And he's a first round pick. He's on year 2 of his rookie deal. So year three. And then, he has a 5th-year option as a first round pick. So he has a lot of leeway. He's cheap right now as well. They could probably find somebody. But I also think if you're the Jets, why would you trade him? He's young. He can grow. He can develop. So to this person's question, I think you should have tried to have traded Garrett Wilson a couple weeks ago. He had more value then. Now I feel like you're probably going to be stuck with him because at this point, if you can trade him, you're not going to get probably what you perceive as equal value because everybody else sees, hey, he is the wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 in that offense. He's only going to get a pass when, okay, Garrett Wilson's doubled. I like Conklin. I'm not going to do a check down. Yeah, let me go to Garrett Wilson.
So Elliott knows this. I traded Garrett Wilson, what was that, Elliott, Thursday for DK Metcalf.
Mm-hmm.
And
Great trade.
yeah,
That's
DK
great.
had a great game. I think he went out towards the end of the game with a knee injury. I'm
Yeah.
praying to God he's not out because I just got AJ Brown back and Cooper Kupp still ain't come back. Just got Malik Neighbors back too. So, hope he's not out too long. But I traded Garrett Wilson. I think I asked y'all in the group chat, would you do the trade? And I pulled the trigger and it paid off at least for this week. But Elliott, what's your take on Wilson, Adams, Lazard, Rogers going forward?
So I think tonight was just a weird game because I would love to see what the time of possession was. It seems like the Jets just didn't have the ball that much, especially in the second half. Seems like they almost were never on the field from with my watch. But I think Wilson's value is definitely going to go down with Adams, but I still think he's valuable. Now, is he first round or second round pick valuable? No. But if you're going to trade for Garrett Wilson, you got to buy him low. You don't give up a lot. Don't try to don't be trading Bijan for him. Like you need to lower what you're going to get because that's not good for you. Like I still think Wilson's has value, but I wouldn't say his value is what it was 2 weeks ago for sure. But I think he's still good for 8 targets a week, maybe more depending on the game script. I think he's still a valuable, just not what he was before Adams.
Yeah, I'll
I,
harp in when you like you were. I'm going to harp in on what you were talking about and like logic. Of
mhm.
course, adding Tay with Wilson and Lazard, like everyone's value has immediately just like gone down a little bit at the bare minimum. Like everyone just isn't quite like Wilson. It just isn't going to be the guy. I talked about getting just absolutely burned by Najee Harris last year. I also got burned by Garrett Wilson last year because Aaron Rodgers blew out his leg in third snap of the year. So like if you're trying to get rid of Wilson, you can only get rid of him if you know you're going to get a wide receiver one on their team. So like maybe
They're trying to trade
Wilson
for Wilson.
trying to get Wilson.
Yeah.
Mm,
Like with Elliott, you're 100% right in the sense of you got to be trading down.
No.
Like you can't risk a lot to try to get Wilson because the problem is we were talking about logic and like trying to follow the breadcrumbs. It's the first week they've all been together. We don't know what this offense is going to look like. Like all of a sudden 2-3 weeks down the road and everyone is bracketing Tay, Garrett Wilson may be eaten, but we don't know.
I will add something.
Well, he
I
was
don't know if
open
you have
one
something else to
play
go.
and dropped it for him.
Yeah, I will add this in, and it's always hard to know how this is going to happen. Like you just don't know. But the Jets are now 2-5, and I think with them being 2-5, I think they're three, maybe four back from the Bills with Tua coming back. At what point does either Wilson or Rodgers get to a point where either Rodgers says, you know what, I'm too old, I'll try next year, or Wilson just says, trade me and I'm not playing until you trade me. That's the only thing I would worry about is like, what point does that happen? It's like, you know what? I'm out.
I don't know if Wilson's that type of player to like demand a trade like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, that's a legit concern, but I don't think he's that type of player.
Mm-hmm.
My concern is Devontae Adams. I mean, his career has always been a target hog, and that's just how he operates as a wide receiver one.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a target hog.
Yeah.
Now Wilson, I think, like you said, I think he'll still be good for 8 targets a game. But the days of his 15 target, 22 target, or whatever it was that game, though I think those are over. And especially if Brees Hall runs the way that he did tonight, it looks like the Devontae Adams trade was more beneficial for Brees Hall than it was the pass.
Yeah. Yeah.
He had a lot of open lanes, a lot of open running room, and some of it was just missed tackling by the Steelers, like that dump
Mm-hmm.
off that Rodgers did to him. But I don't know if Wilson's that type of player, but in order to trade for Garrett Wilson, it would have to be a low ball. So
So if I can add here, and I've been trying to go through scenarios of this is not everybody, what I would perceive as a doable trade for Garrett Wilson. Austin, this may help you. I know
don't
you
say
have,
it.
yeah, no. I know you have Brock Bowers.
I know, no, I knew you were about to say Bowers. No,
Never.
no,
No?
No, absolutely not.
I would keep Bowers. Bowers has been a
Absolutely not.
he's been a
Brock
reception
Bowers.
No,
monster.
Brock Bowers is
absolutely.
tight end too.
Anybody listening, do not trade Brock Bowers.
Never.
Do
No,
not trade
no,
Brock.
no, no, no. What I am saying is, if you are, I'd say desperate, but if you're in a place where you need other positions of need, I think you can find a tight end out there on waivers. I will give you Evan Ingram. No, Evan Ingram. He's coming back. He
I'm
had an
still
okay
not doing it.
game today, but I know he's not Brock Bowers. But I think if you really think Garrett Wilson can be a wide receiver too, and he has that type of value, I would say a top tight end is a comparable trade. I'll give you like a Zach Moss, um, um maybe somebody like him right now. So like a low end RB2. He's
Yeah, but would the
serviceable,
Garrett
but
Wilson owner do that? Let me ask you this, just throwing out a
yeah,
couple of names. Would you do Chris Godwin for Garrett Wilson?
yeah. If I have Garrett
Really?
Wilson, I would love to have Chris Godwin over him.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
no. I said, would you trade Godwin for Garrett Wilson?
Oh,
So you would
absolutely,
not do that. Yeah.
absolutely.
Let me throw another
Let me
name
see.
out there. Would you do
Would you do Tony Pollard for Garrett Wilson?
I would because I don't have a damn running back. Or I mean, like I would, I would like.
here's a to answer your question, Elliott, probably not unless I was set at running back. Because running backs are hard to find.
As a
Uh,
Garrett Wilson owner, like if I owned Wilson, I would at this point in time I would be selling for any running back I can get because again, harping on my 1-5 record, and I'm actually trying, so don't listen to a goddamn thing I say. Um, I've got a real. I feel really good about my wide receiver room. I've got Metcalf, Flowers, DJ Moore, and Brian Thomas Jr. I
Wow.
feel
Yeah.
like that's a pretty good wide receiver room, and I'm gonna have to sit someone every week. But you got to pick one of those guys to package with an Etienne or a White and do that. So like as a Wilson owner, I'm more inclined if I was a Wilson owner, I'm more inclined to start trying to package stuff to get to a stronger position in whatever position group you need help with.
Let me ask you this. Would you do Brian Thomas Jr. for Garrett Wilson?
No, Brian Thomas. I mean, like getting Brian Thomas Jr. or
No, getting Garrett Wilson. You're giving away BTJ.
nope,
Absolutely not.
nope.
Man, hey, this honestly, y'all are gonna say absolutely not. That's not the right value. Jack Smith the Jigba. Would you trade JSN for Garrett Wilson?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Purely
Oh yeah.
upside.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's a legit comp because
Yeah.
it's
And they were
current
teammates
future. Yeah,
at Ohio State.
yeah.
Yeah, I would. Nathan says, is Pickens a potential wide receiver too? Um,
When he's not on a snap count.
yeah. When he's not on the snap count and punching somebody, he's legit. Cal says 49ers are the worst team to have fantasy players for. Why not just list Debo as inactive? I agree. I think they got to start getting penalized because Jordan Mason spilled the beans week 1 and said that he knew that he was starting Friday, but they were trying to hide it from the Jets until Monday and say Christian McCaffrey's inactive, which you can't do apparently. So, and then this
Mhm.
Debo thing, like I know what you said earlier. He like tried to play and then he just couldn't. I think the whole time they were probably gonna hold him out anyway. Uh, I started Debo in one league. I lost anyway because I had Jaden Daniels, but there needs to be a better update on injuries, to be honest. Because say what you want, they don't owe us anything, but like the NFL loses a lot of money when it comes to injuries because of the sports betting in Vegas. And if you're the NFL and you're about business, I just think your official injury report should come out on Saturday. If
Well, I
your
mean, I thought it
player,
was. I thought it was like a punishment. Like if you are found to lie about it, I thought it was a punishment.
it's
I
like a
thought.
fine, but I mean, when you're $1 billion company, like what is that to you? Like I'm talking, this got to be
Yeah.
draft picks,
Draft picks.
you
Yeah.
know?
Or like a player that player just can't play next week. He can't.
Yeah,
A certain
and
player
like
can't play.
if your player is active, like he has to play, or if he's not going to be inactive, you need to say he's not inactive like on Saturday.
See, but
Um,
then the devil's advocate of that from like the NFLPA specifically would be like you're putting players in a position to risk themselves. Like where you genuinely feel like you can play,
Mhm.
but then you don't play a snap. But because if that rule exists, you have to play a snap. You're putting yourself out there when you're not safe to play the game. So
Then
like,
get ruled inactive.
but it's a game time. Like, yeah, you can make the game time decision, like make it what 4 hours before kickoff. I'm fine with that, but like you can't do it a whole day before when you're
So
like,
I'll say this. I hear what you're saying, but like Cooper Cup, right? He was trending in the right direction, and then Friday and Saturday, they were like, he's leaning towards not playing. And then he wound up not playing. Like I was fine with that. We had an inclination of he's probably not gonna play. I'm talking about the ones where they're like, he's good to go, he's good to go, he's good to go, and then he's inactive, but you knew
yeah.
2 days ago that he was already leaning towards not playing.
And that's hard to prove when it's
Yeah,
not
it is hard to
in
prove.
some situation where it's like Debo may have been like in a Paul Pierce situation where he's like, I'm good, and like, oh, I'm gotta shit my pants. Like, we gotta go to the
You keep bringing up
locker
Paul
room.
Pierce.
Like, no, this we can't do this. So like, we can't. It's a tough situation because you can't prove it. And at the end of the day, like even before sports betting, the NFL was a $1 trillion business and trending up and to the right every time. So like I think the coaches and the owners who are already billionaires, screw them, like whatever. But like uh they're more concerned about winning games. Kind of like we're talking about the Chiefs being fantasy irrelevant because we can't, Patrick Mahomes is the top 20, like is the 20th best quarterback in the league fantasy wise. But they're the only undefeated team in the league. Like
Yeah.
so it's a tough situation to be in where like I get it where you're coming from of the Vegas and the money and the business side of it. But like coaches, I mean Mike Tomlin's the best example of like the
He is. And he annoys the hell
says
out of me.
nothing. Like he says the bare minimum or like was it Marshawn Lynch? He's like, I'm only here not to get fined. I'm only here not to get fined. Like you got to take that approach to the business side of it.
So if you heard Friday they interviewed George Pickens after they
I
interviewed
heard
Mike
this. Yeah.
Tomlin, and Tomlin said, we're keeping our decision in-house, blah, blah, blah. Pickens slipped up and said in his interview, yeah, it's going to be Wilson's first start. That's the type of BS that I'm talking about. Now, granted, you're trying to hide it from the Jets, but like that's the type of stuff that, okay, like come
I
on.
don't mind that if it's not injury related. They have no obligation to tell us who they're starting. They don't need to give us a depth chart. Like the injury thing, I'm more inclined to semi agree with what you're talking about. Like if someone's definitely out, let them be out. But if it's like I've got two healthy dudes, I don't have to tell you who I'm starting. That's competitive advantage. Like I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Next question here. Who's this? User, do you think Ricky Pearson and what had three
Okay.
catches, I think? Um, especially if Ayuk is out, I think he's a good stash.
Yeah, no, I think
Do
they
you
got
guys
to pass
agree?
somebody. I would. Okay, as I was like, oh, they got receivers right now. They're good. Yeah, I would say pick up Twan Jennings, pick up Pearsall if he's out there. I think their offense has shown whoever they have at receiver, they're going to be productive. We don't know if it's always on a consistent basis, but I know IU didn't start off that well, but he started going to the system once he finally got acclimated.
Yeah.
I would say pick up maybe even whoever's behind Jordan Mason. Maybe they put him out there and try something else out of the
Garindo.
Wildcat. Yeah.
Okay. Um, users user says y'all need to stop yapping and answer some questions. He says
Quick fire. Let's
Leo
Sorry,
said
sorry, sorry.
Jaden Reed for Debo. No, absolutely not. I'm keeping Jaden
next.
Reed.
Nope.
Who's this? James Alex says James Conner and Jaden Reed for Brees Hall. It's actually not a bad
Not a
question.
bad one.
Uh
I'm assuming you're deep at receiver where you can get rid of a Reed.
yeah, if you can get rid of Reed, depending on your receivers,
If you're
I don't
upgrading your
mind
running
the
back
trade.
room, yes. If you're not strong in wide receiver room, no.
Yeah. Um, who's this? Wavy says Stroud needs some protection. He was pressured in under 2 seconds every snap. Yeah, I agree. Would you trade Kenneth Walker for DeAndre Swift and Aaron Jones? Elliott, you are the
Kenneth
Walker.
Walker is a must-start running back. He will probably finish the season top five barring injury. There's no reason to trade him unless you just need running back depth. I'm assuming that person needs running back depth because they said one for two. If that's
Yeah.
the case, maybe. Otherwise,
I'll rebut.
yeah.
I disagree. I would take that trade
Aaron Jones
100%.
has been cooking.
Yeah, and
Okay.
honestly, DeAndre Swift, now that the Bears keyword, seem to have an identity on offense, and they seem to have settled in. Yeah, I think that's great. You have two of the middle RB2s for a solid RB1. Yeah, I would take that. I
If
think
you're
that's
my
a good
Yeah.
pick.
me having no running backs, I would take that trade because I'm getting 2 for 1. Like I'm trading talking about 12 and 13 from the other two and maybe 20 from Walker. So aggregate, if those two are going to score more points than Walker, then it's worth
Yeah,
it.
I
I
mean,
would
as
take
soon
it.
as
Honestly,
one's going to go in the flex, and if one's going to go, if they're going to be both your starters and one's going in your flex, it could be worth the trade.
yep,
But I think
Oh,
Kenneth Walker
100%.
is definitely better than those two. But if you need the running back depth, it's there.
I like that
Yeah.
too.
Let's see who else came in with a question. Should I start? Who's this? Xander. Should I start Drake May over Dak now? Austin?
Fantasy perspective, um, yeah, start Drake May. I mean, it's going to be streaming the matchup. If you've got them both, if you're not dropping either, like if the Cowboys are supposed to win, which we know they may not win, even if they're supposed to win. Sorry, Elliott. Drake may be worth a play just because they're going to be throwing the ball.
Man, let's be honest. Cowboys next week, they play the 49ers on Sunday Night Football. If there's a quarterback who loves the spotlight, it's Dak Prescott right now. That's sarcasm. No, I would not start Dak. He only has one guy he's throwing to. And so, I mean, if you just look at him, he drops
Yeah,
back and
the other team.
oh, this is man-to-man defense. No, it's cover two. There's two high safeties. Like it's sim- it. I feel like it's just simple mistakes that's holding Dak back from being great or Dak being consistent. He's just making dumb mistakes, and that has cost his fantasy performance this year. So
Yeah.
Drake May's come out. Like I said today, he had a decent stat line and a loss. So roll with him until you have a reason not to.
Yep. Let's see. Nathan says, is Hunter Henry a good tight end option? With Drake May, I think he's decent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if this 1 week is indicative of what's going forward, yes, because we know rookie quarterbacks rookie or bad quarterbacks like their tight ends. All hail Brock Bowers, but Hunter Henry may be the guy. I mean, Jacoby Brissett wasn't keying on him. Drake May obviously was,
Yeah.
so might be worth it.
Goku says, who should I keep? Kenneth Walker? Yes. Jordan Mason, Aaron Jones, or Bigsby?
I'm assuming
Get
one
rid
of
of
the
Bigsby.
four.
I'm assuming y'all can pick one. I would say Kenneth Walker out of those.
Kenneth Walker.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Matt says, how good is Amari Cooper going forward? And how did Garrett Wilson look? Wilson looked okay. He had a drop, but we'll see how they look going forward. They have who does the Jets play next week? Patriots.
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 Yeah.
How good is Amari Cooper going forward? I would say wide receiver 2.
Mhm.
He scored
He
double
scored
digits his
with
first
Josh Allen.
game
Yeah.
in the
But
system.
hang
So
on,
like,
Austin, to your point, I think he was like 2 for something, and he had a touchdown.
Yeah.
So he did have like 10 points. I think that was the last I checked. He had like 10 point something point, but
Yeah.
he didn't have a ton of touches. But he's also been there for.
Like not that long. I
yeah,
mean,
Yeah. I think he'll be fine going forward. Adams. Josh Allen has somebody. Like he's got to throw to somebody. And today it was
one.
Keon Coleman.
Well,
So
and with the Bills, they're used to having a target in
yeah.
Stephon Diggs. So Amari Cooper may end up being the Stephon Diggs role, and we start seeing the scheme start to develop around that. Amari Cooper could be legit.
Yeah. Carter says thoughts on Russell Wilson. Um, one game, I was encouraged. It was against the Jets defense, who been slightly overrated, but I was encouraged on what I saw. He loved George Pickens. So if you're a Pickens owner, this is good for you. Um, I like watching these recap lives. Appreciate it, Johnny. Uh, oh, the other guy with the 4 running backs said, which one would you keep on your fantasy team? Oh, yeah, we said Kenneth Walker. Kyle said, should I trade Deontay Johnson and Kareem Hunt for Neighbors?
Nah,
I would probably keep Deontay and Hunt.
I just keep them. I keep those two guys.
I would keep Kareem Hunt.
Yeah, Hunt looks like a solid RB1.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's see. User 89 says Garrett or Adams. I'm assuming the teammates. That's tough.
I'd say Adams, just because you guys were harping on Warren calling out Rodgers' hating throwing to Wilson. So I think Adams is the bet between the two.
Yeah, I would probably go
Yeah.
Adams at this point. Wilson
Well,
had a
if you wanna like if you wanna follow logic, logic would say when Rodgers and Adams are together, target's gonna go up. So I
Yeah.
think so.
Not many people like being around Aaron Rodgers. Devontae Adams is one of those people. Like being
Yeah.
around him. So
He's getting 25 targets a game that last year in Green Bay. So like,
Yeah. Last one, guys. I gotta go after this one.
Mm.
Cooper Kupp, wide receiver one, moving forward. Absolutely.
if he's healthy,
If he's healthy,
yeah,
absolutely.
and he was. I actually saw an update today. He was trending to coming back on Thursday.
Yeah.
So Chargers playing Thursday night football this week. They're expecting him to play and be active. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We will be back tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Appreciate you three stopping in. Kobe says, "Can you answer mine, please, before you go?" Kobe says, J.K. Dobbins or Kareem Hunt for Week 8. I don't think you can go wrong with either one.
I leave Dobbins.
Kareem Hunt plays Vegas, and who does J.K. Dobbins play? Let me look. Let me look. J.K. Dobbins has Arizona. No, he has New Orleans. Ooh,
Ooh.
that's tough, Kobe. I would probably lean towards J.K.
Yeah, I lean towards Dobbins.
Yeah.
I
The
was
Saints'
leaning
run
towards
defense
Kareem
sucks.
only because if they get close to the goal line, I mean, Warren, said it, it's probably going to go to Kareem Hunt.
Yeah. I was just looking
I
at
was
it
I was
divisional
I was
game.
leaning Kareem.
But you can't go wrong either way, Kobe. But these two guys say Kareem, me and Austin say JK. So whoever you decide to start, come back and let us know. And we can point and laugh at the other two. Um, but I appreciate you guys showing up. And I will see you guys tomorrow for the Monday Night Football edition.
Absolutely.
Peace.
Hey, appreciate y'all so much. It's been fun.